The morning sky burned orange and red. It was not the usual sunrise that Tom Miller had seen every day for the last 40 years of his life. This was different. This was fire. This was the end. Tom stood on the rooftop of his small house on the outskirts of Pine City, his eyes fixed on the horizon where dark shapes moved against the burning sky. The radio beside him crackled with desperate reports from around the world. They had all seen the ships 3 days ago, massive dark vessels that had appeared suddenly in orbit around Earth. "This is not happening," Tom whispered to himself, clutching his old Navy cap in his weathered hands. His years as a naval engineer had taught him about warfare, about ships, about weapons. Nothing had prepared him for this. The alien vessels were called the Dominion by news reporters, a name that seemed to fit their purpose. They came without warning or message. Their first attack had disabled every major military installation across the globe in less than 2 hours. The radio announcer's voice shook as he reported, "London has gone dark. Tokyo is under attack. Washington, D.C. reports complete destruction of defensive capabilities." The list went on. Tom watched as smaller ships broke away from the larger vessels. They moved with impossible speed, descending toward major cities. Pine City might be small, but the military base 10 miles east made it a target. He should run. That would be the smart thing to do. But where? Reports said nowhere was safe. The ground shook as the first explosions hit the military base. Even from this distance, Tom could see the massive fireballs rising into the sky. The base housed some of Earth's most advanced weapons systems. They were supposed to protect people. They were supposed to be unbeatable. The phone lines had gone dead hours ago, but Tom's old emergency radio still picked up some channels. He heard the desperate voice of Colonel Barnes from the base. "They've penetrated all defenses. Our missiles don't even reach them before I don't know what they're doing, but they're just disappearing. We're launching everything we've got." Tom watched as streaks of light rose from the base, missiles, hundreds of them, launching toward the alien ship hovering above. The missiles approached the dark vessel, then simply vanished. No explosions, no impacts, they simply ceased to exist. "God help us," Tom murmured. The response was swift and terrible. A beam of blinding blue light shot down from the ship, so bright that Tom had to shield his eyes. When he looked back, the entire military base was gone. In its place was a perfect crater, edges still glowing red. 20,000 soldiers, gone in seconds. Tom's legs gave way beneath him, and he sank to his knees on the rooftop. Across the world, this same scene was playing out. Humanity's most powerful weapons, their strongest defenses, were nothing against this enemy. His radio crackled again. This time it was the president's voice, tired and defeated. "My fellow Americans, my fellow citizens of Earth. After consulting with world leaders and military advisors, we have made the difficult decision to offer our unconditional surrender to the forces known as the Dominion. To continue fighting would mean the loss of countless more innocent lives. I ask all military personnel to lay down their arms. I ask all citizens to comply with any directives issued by these visitors. We will survive this. Humanity will endure. But first, we must live through today." Tom couldn't believe what he was hearing. Surrender? The world's most powerful nations, giving up after just 3 days? But as he looked at the smoking crater that had been a state-of-the-art military base, he understood. This wasn't a war. It was an extermination. The days that followed were chaos. The Dominion ships positioned themselves above major cities worldwide. From these ships came smaller craft carrying the first Dominion beings humans had seen up close. They were tall, at least 7 feet in height, with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in sunlight. Their faces had features similar to humans. Eyes, though larger and entirely black. A mouth-like opening, 2 ear-like structures, but arranged in proportions that made them deeply unsettling to look at. Tom saw them for the first time a week after the initial attack. They had established a regional control center in what had been Pine City's town hall. The streets were patrolled by floating mechanical orbs that could stun or kill with beams, similar to what had destroyed the military base just on a smaller scale. He stood in line with hundreds of other residents waiting to be processed. Each person was scanned, had blood taken, and was issued an identification chip embedded painlessly into their wrist. No one resisted. They had all seen what happened, to those who did. "Move forward," said a mechanical voice from one of the orbs. "Present arm for identification processing." Tom did as instructed, watching as a thin needle extended from the orb and pressed into his wrist. There was a slight pinch, then nothing. A small bump remained under his skin. "Thomas Miller," the mechanical voice announced. "Former military, engineer. Assignment: Technical Maintenance Staff, Sector 7, report tomorrow at sunrise." Tom looked up in surprise. "How did you—" "Your skills have been cataloged. You will serve the Dominion by maintaining basic infrastructure. Resistance will result in termination. Compliance will be rewarded with rations and shelter." That night, Tom sat in his dark house. Power had been cut to most residential areas, thinking about what had happened. The most powerful militaries in the world had been defeated in days. The most advanced weapons humans had created might as well have been sticks and stones against the Dominion technology. For the first time in his life, Tom understood what it meant to be truly helpless. Humanity had always prided itself on its adaptability, its intelligence, its fighting spirit. None of that mattered against an enemy so far beyond them. In the distance, he could see the lights of the Dominion Control Center. They had already begun transforming it, adding structures that seemed to grow rather than be built, technology that defied understanding. "We were never ready," Tom whispered to himself. "All our wars, all our progress. We thought we were so advanced." As he looked up at the night sky, now permanently changed by the presence of the massive Dominion ships, Tom wondered if there was any hope left for humanity. They were conquered, occupied, reduced to servants in a matter of days. But deep inside, something stubborn refused to accept this new reality. It wasn't a plan, or even an idea yet. Just a tiny spark of the human spirit that had carried his species through ice ages, plagues, and their own destructive tendencies. Tomorrow he would report for duty. Tomorrow he would begin his life under Dominion rule. Tomorrow he would appear broken and obedient. And tomorrow he would begin to watch, to learn, to understand these conquerors. Because if there was one thing Tom knew about humans, it was that they were at their most dangerous when they appeared to be at their weakest. The war had proven humanity helpless. But perhaps, just perhaps, that was not the end of the story. 6 months had passed since the day the sky burned. 6 months of living under Dominion rule. 6 months of Tom Miller keeping his head down, eyes open, and mind alert. The morning alarm sounded, a harsh electronic pulse that the Dominion had installed in every human dwelling. Tom rubbed his tired eyes and rose from his small bed. His tiny apartment was one of hundreds in what the Dominion called Worker Housing Block 12. It had once been a hotel before they converted it. "Another day serving our overlords," Tom muttered as he splashed cold water on his face. Hot water was a luxury not permitted to human workers. He put on his gray maintenance uniform and checked his wrist chip. It glowed slightly, showing he had 30 minutes to report to his station at the regional hub. Being late meant reduced rations or worse. As Tom walked through the quiet streets of what used to be Pine City, he noted the changes. The Dominion structures had grown like metallic plants, twisting upward and connecting to create a network above the human buildings. Their technology seemed almost alive, adapting and growing rather than being constructed. Floating security. Orbs hovered at street corners, their black lenses tracking every human movement. Tom kept his pace steady and his eyes down, the picture of a broken, obedient worker. But Tom wasn't broken, not inside. "Morning, Tom," whispered a voice as he passed an alley. It was Lisa, a former doctor now working in the Dominion Medical Facility. Her once bright eyes were now shadowed with exhaustion, but they still held a spark of defiance. "Morning," Tom replied quietly, not breaking his stride. "Meeting tonight?" "Yes, Jack has news. Be careful today." Tom gave a slight nod and continued walking. Lisa was part of what they called the Whisper Network. Humans who shared information, watched the Dominion, and kept hope alive. It wasn't resistance, not yet. Just people refusing to surrender their minds even when their bodies had no choice. The regional hub loomed ahead, a massive structure that pulsed with blue energy. It had once been the town hall, but the Dominion had transformed it beyond recognition. Tom scanned his wrist chip at the entrance and was admitted inside. "Worker Miller, report to Section 14 for pipe maintenance," announced the automated system. Tom nodded and headed toward the lower levels. His job involved maintaining the human-built infrastructure that the Dominion still used: water systems, basic electrical components, ventilation. They could have built their own superior versions, but the Dominion seemed to prefer making humans maintain their own outdated systems. It was efficient and humiliating at the same time. But it gave Tom access. Access was information. Information might someday be power. In Section 14, Tom opened a maintenance panel and began checking the water flow regulators. As he worked, he listened to the Dominion guards nearby. They spoke in their own language, a series of clicks and humming tones, but occasionally used translation devices when addressing human workers. One guard approached, towering over Tom. Like all Dominion beings, it was nearly 7 feet tall with shimmering gray-blue skin and those disturbing black eyes. "Worker, increase water pressure to level 3, it commanded through its translator. "Yes, sir," Tom replied, keeping his voice flat. "May I ask why?" "The system is calibrated for optimal." "Do not question. Increase pressure." Tom adjusted the controls. "Done, sir." The guard moved away, but not before Tom noticed something strange. It seemed nervous, glancing repeatedly at a data pad it carried. This wasn't the first time Tom had noticed the Dominion soldiers acting oddly. They were supposed to be the conquerors, yet sometimes they behaved like they were the ones under threat. Later that day, while repairing a ventilation shaft, Tom found himself able to overhear a conversation between two high-ranking Dominion officers. He couldn't see them, but their voices carried through the metal ductwork. "The orbital scanners have detected no sign of it," one voice said. "They will come. The Harbinger always follows the same pattern," replied another, deeper voice. "We must prepare the defense grid. This planet's resources must be protected. The humans are resistant to control. They will be difficult to use when the time comes. They will serve or die. Their weakness made them easy to conquer. Their bodies will make adequate shields." Tom froze, barely breathing. Shields? Against what? And what was the Harbinger? He memorized everything he heard before continuing his work, careful not to make a sound. That night, after his shift, Tom made his way to the meeting place, the basement of an abandoned library. The Dominion had little interest in human books, considering them primitive and worthless. This made the library one of the few safe places to gather. Jack was already there when Tom arrived. A former communications technician, Jack now worked cleaning the Dominion's communication arrays, a tight job they thought too menial for their own kind. "You're late," Jack said as Tom slipped inside. "Had to take a longer route, more patrols tonight." Lisa arrived moments later, followed by 3 others: Mike, a former police officer, Dora, who worked in food distribution, and Pete, who had access to the Dominion's waste disposal system. "I've noticed something," Tom began, keeping his voice low. "The Dominion soldiers are acting strange, nervous. I overheard them talking about something called the Harbinger and preparing defenses." Jack nodded. "That matches what I've seen. They've been redirecting communication arrays toward the outer solar system, looking for something." "They're scared," Mike added. "I can see it when I'm assigned to guard duty transport. These aren't the actions of confident conquerors." Lisa pulled out a small notebook, paper being one technology the Dominion didn't bother to monitor. "I've been documenting behavior changes in the command staff. Increased stress indicators, sleep cycle disruptions. Something's happening." "There's more," Tom said. "I heard them say humans would make adequate shields. Whatever's coming, they plan to use us against it." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. So we're not just slaves, Dora whispered. We're cannon fodder. Pete, who rarely spoke, cleared his throat. I found something yesterday. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metallic object. It was in the disposal unit from the command center. Tom took the object. It was a data storage device, similar to the ones the Dominion used but damaged. Can we read it? I've been working on that, Jack said. I might be able to connect it to some old human tech. The systems are different, but I've been studying their technology. As they discussed plans to decode the device, Tom's mind raced. The Dominion weren't just conquerors. They were running from something that terrified them enough to seize Earth as a defensive position. Whatever's coming, Tom said quietly. It might be our only chance. The meeting ended, and they slipped away one by one, returning to their assigned housing before curfew. As Tom walked through the dark streets, he looked up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the Dominion ships that still orbited Earth, something was coming, something the mighty Dominion feared. For the first time since the invasion, Tom felt something close to hope. Not because he believed whatever was coming would be their savior. It might be even worse than the Dominion. But because fear made even the strongest enemies vulnerable. And vulnerability could be exploited. Humanity had been proven weak and helpless in war. But perhaps their strength lay elsewhere, in watching, waiting, and being underestimated. Tomorrow, Tom would return, to fixing pipes and pretending to be broken. But tonight he allowed himself to dream of freedom. The alarm blared throughout the Dominion Regional Hub, a sound Tom had never heard before. It was different from the usual signals, higher-pitched, more urgent. Something was happening. Tom was in the middle of repairing an electrical circuit when the first alarm sounded. Moments later, Dominion soldiers rushed through the corridors, their normally measured movements now quick and disorganized. All human workers return to quarters immediately, announced the automated system. This is not a drill. Return to quarters. But Tom didn't move toward the exit. Instead, he slipped into a maintenance shaft, one he had discovered during his months of quiet exploration. The narrow passage ran between walls, allowing access to critical systems and providing an excellent hiding place. Through a small vent, Tom watched as Dominion commanders gathered in the central command room. Their translator devices were active, allowing him to understand their frantic conversation. The object has entered the solar system, said one commander, its black eyes fixed on a large display screen. Speed is beyond anything we've recorded. Size? Asked another. Massive, at least twice the size of our largest vessel. A third commander with markings Tom recognized as indicating higher rank stepped forward. Send the alert to all Earth stations. Move defense platforms to outer orbit positions. Prepare the human containment areas. Tom felt his heart race. Was this the harbinger they had feared? For weeks, the Whisper network had been piecing together information. Jack had partially decoded the damaged data device, revealing fragments of information about something the Dominion called the Judgment. Whatever was approaching, the Dominion had encountered it before, and it had not gone well for them. As Tom watched through the vent, the main screen displayed an image that made even the Dominion commanders step back. A massive vessel, unlike anything Tom had ever seen, was visible at the edge of the solar system. It didn't look like the Dominion ships with their angular metallic designs. This vessel was smooth, almost organic in appearance, glowing with a soft blue light. It's them, whispered one commander. The Harbinger has found us again. Tom needed to get this information to the others. Carefully, he backed away from the vent and moved through the maintenance shaft toward an exit he knew would be less guarded during an emergency. Outside, chaos had erupted. Dominion soldiers were herding humans toward safety zones, really just containment areas where they could be easily controlled, or, Tom now realized, used as shields. The floating security orbs were everywhere, stunning anyone who resisted. Tom ducked behind buildings, using his knowledge of the patrol patterns to avoid detection. He needed to reach the library basement, When he finally arrived, Lisa and Jack were already there, along with several others he hadn't seen before. "They're here," Tom said, catching his breath. "The Harbinger, it's a ship, massive. The Dominion are terrified." Jack nodded grimly. "It's all over their communication channels. They're calling all ships back to Earth orbit." "We decoded more of the data," Lisa added, spreading papers on a table. "The Harbinger isn't just one ship. It's the advanced scout for something called the Guardians. The Dominion have encountered them before on other worlds they tried to conquer." "What are they?" Tom asked. "We don't know exactly," Jack replied. "But the Dominion fear them enough to abandon other conquered planets to escape them." The ground suddenly shook beneath their feet. A distant roar filled the air. "They've started firing," Mike said from near a boarded window. "The orbital platforms are attacking the approaching ship." They all fell silent, listening to the distant sounds of weapons fire. It was impossible to tell what was happening without seeing it. Then Lisa's small radio crackled to life. She had modified it to pick up Dominion communication frequencies, a dangerous but valuable tool. "All units, defensive failure," came a panicked voice through the static. "Orbital platforms 3, 7, and 12 have been destroyed. The vessel has not returned fire. Repeat, the vessel has not returned fire. It continues approach to Earth orbit." Tom and the others exchanged glances. The Dominion's most powerful weapons, the same ones that had decimated Earth's military in hours, were ineffective against this new arrival. "Does that mean they're on our side?" asked Dora hopefully. "Don't count on it," Tom cautioned. "Whatever they are, they're powerful enough to scare the Dominion. That doesn't make them our friends." The radio crackled again. "All commanders, priority alert. The vessel is broadcasting on all frequencies. It's using human languages." Tom grabbed the radio. "What did they say? What languages?" As if, in answer, every electronic device in the room came to life at once. The radio, an old television in the corner, even the small tablet Jack had repaired. All displayed the same message, cycling through languages: English, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, and dozens more. The message was simple. "We come for what was stolen. We are ready." "Ready?" Pete whispered. "Is that their name?" "Or a warning?" Mike suggested. Before they could discuss further, another tremor shook the building, stronger this time. Dust fell from the ceiling. "We need to see what's happening," Tom decided. The old observatory on the hill might still have telescopes. Despite the danger, they agreed it was necessary. Moving in small groups to avoid detection, they made their way across town to the abandoned observatory. The Dominion had little interest in human scientific facilities, considering them primitive. The main telescope was intact. Jack, who had some experience with astronomy, quickly adjusted it to focus on the sky. "Look," he gasped, stepping back to let the others see. Tom peered through the eyepiece. What he saw took his breath away. The Dominion ships were in disarray, some attempting to flee, others firing uselessly at the massive vessel that now hung in Earth orbit. The vessel, Ready, as it had called itself, was beautiful in a strange way, its surface shifting with patterns of light. As they watched, smaller craft began to detach from Ready, descending toward Earth. Unlike the aggressive approach of the Dominion invasion, these craft moved slowly, deliberately. "They're landing outside the city," Lisa said, watching through binoculars from the observatory window. The radio they had brought suddenly came alive again, this time with the voice of the highest-ranking Dominion commander. "All units, defensive positions around the central archives. The Guardians must not reach the artifact storage. Use human shields if necessary." "Artifact storage?" Tom repeated. "What artifacts?" "Whatever it is, it's important enough for them to make a last stand," Jack said. "And it's in the central building where you work, Tom." Tom thought quickly. He knew that building better than anyone in their group, including the hidden maintenance passages. "We need to get there before the Dominion sets up their defenses," he decided. "If these new arrivals are looking for something the Dominion stole, I want to know what it is. It could be a trap, Mike warned. What if both sides are hostile to humans? Tom nodded. That's why only I should go. The rest of you should try to warn as many people as possible to stay hidden until we know more. Lisa grabbed his arm. That's suicide, Tom. Maybe, he admitted. But for the first time since they arrived, the Dominion are afraid. This might be our only chance to learn why. As the others reluctantly agreed to his plan, Tom looked out the window at the chaos unfolding across the city. Dominion soldiers were abandoning outer posts, rushing to defend something at the center. In the distance, strange craft with glowing blue hulls descended from the sky. Whatever happened next would change everything. Again. Be careful, Lisa said as Tom prepared to leave. He nodded, a grim smile on his face. Humanity was too weak to win the war, but maybe we're not too weak to pick the winning side. With that, Tom slipped out into the night, heading toward the heart of the Dominion Control Center as the sky above filled with the light of battle. Tom pressed his body against the cold wall of the maintenance shaft, barely breathing as a group of Dominion soldiers rushed past the thin metal panel that hid him. The central hub was in chaos. Alarms blared continuously, and the usual orderly movement of the alien conquerors had dissolved into panicked activity. Using the narrow maintenance passages he had mapped during months of careful observation, Tom made his way deeper into the Dominion Command Center. His destination was the lower level, an area normally forbidden to human workers. According to the radio transmission they had intercepted, something called artifact storage was located there, something important enough for the Dominion to make their last stand. A violent tremor shook the building, nearly causing Tom to lose his balance. The Dominion's defensive weapons were firing at something, and the impacts were getting closer. Whatever battles were happening in orbit had clearly moved to the ground. After navigating through several more passages, Tom reached a ventilation grate that overlooked a large chamber he had never seen before. Carefully, he peered through the slats. The room below was unlike any other Dominion facility, while most of their technology was angular and metallic. This chamber contained dozens of glass containers arranged in concentric circles. Inside each container was an object that glowed with soft light. Some appeared to be simple stones, others complex mechanical devices, but all radiated an energy Tom could almost feel. Dominion commanders stood in defensive positions around the room, weapons ready. Their usual calm arrogance was gone, replaced by what Tom recognized as fear. They're almost here, said one commander. Outer defenses have fallen. The human shields are in position? Asked another. Yes. 500 humans have been placed between us and their approach route. Tom's stomach clenched. 500 people forced to stand between two alien forces with no protection. He had to do something. Before he could move, a new tremor shook the building, stronger than before. The lights flickered, and then a section of wall simply disappeared. Not exploded, not broken, but seemingly erased from existence. Through this perfect opening walked beings unlike any Tom had seen before. They were humanoid in shape, but taller than humans, with skin that seemed to glow from within. Their faces were oddly familiar. 2 eyes, nose, mouth, but proportioned differently, giving them an uncanny appearance that was both alien and somehow recognizable. Guardians, whispered one of the Dominion commanders, the translation device, making its voice sound strangled with fear. The lead Guardian stepped forward. You were warned, it said in perfect, unaccented English. This sector was protected. These people were protected. We claim this world by right of conquest, replied the highest-ranking Dominion commander. The primitives could not defend themselves. And yet you fear them enough to study their past? The Guardian said, gesturing to the glowing containers. You fear their potential. Tom strained to see better. What were those objects? Why did the Dominion have them? The standoff was interrupted by weapons fire. A desperate Dominion soldier had fired at the Guardians. The energy beam struck a Guardian but seemed to pass through it without effect. The response was immediate. A pulse of blue light swept through the room, disabling the Dominion weapons. Your choice has been made, the lead guardian said. "You will leave this world now, or you will not leave at all." The Dominion commander hesitated, then made a signal to its troops. As one, they began to back toward another exit. Tom saw his chance. In the confusion, he pushed open the ventilation grate and dropped into the room, landing behind a row of containment units. Neither the retreating Dominion nor the advancing Guardians noticed him. Once the Dominion had withdrawn, the Guardians approached the glowing containers. Tom remained hidden, watching and listening. "The artifacts are intact," one Guardian said. "They did not manage to unlock their secrets." "Some are missing," noted another. "They must have been taken to their ships." The lead Guardian, whose clothing bore markings that suggested rank or importance, surveyed the room. "We must secure these immediately, then find the humans they were using as shields." Tom decided to take a risk. He stood up slowly, hands raised. "I can help with that." All the Guardians turned to face him, their expressions unreadable. The lead Guardian approached. "You are brave or foolish to reveal yourself," it said. "Probably both," Tom admitted. "My name is Tom Miller. I'm with a group that's been watching the Dominion gathering information. We know where they might have taken those people." The Guardian studied him for a long moment. "I am Alan." "Alan?" Tom couldn't hide his surprise at the ordinary human name. A slight expression that might have been amusement crossed the Guardian's face. "It is the closest approximation of my name in your language. It will suffice." Another Guardian approached, carrying one of the glowing artifacts, a small pyramid-shaped object. "The genetic key is responding to his presence," it said. Alan's attention sharpened. "Interesting." He turned back to Tom. "These artifacts are part of your planet's heritage. They were left here long ago, to be discovered when humanity was ready." "Ready?" Tom repeated. "Like your ship's name." "Yes. Ready is not just a name. It is a designation. It means the time has come." "The time for what?" Before Alan could answer, another Guardian approached. "The Dominion forces are retreating. To orbit. Their ships are preparing to jump." "Let them go," Alan decided. "Our priority is the safety of this world and the recovery of the artifacts." He turned back to Tom. "You offered help. Will you take me to your leaders?" Tom almost laughed. "We don't have leaders anymore. The Dominion destroyed our governments. But I can take you to people I trust." As they prepared to leave, Tom pointed to the glowing containers. "What are these things? Why did the Dominion want them?" Alan picked up a small crystal-like object that pulsed with blue light. "These are tools and records left by my people when we visited Earth thousands of years ago. We left them buried, at sites across your world, with markers that would only be revealed when your civilization reached a certain level of development." "Your people visited Earth before?" "Many times. We are caretakers of a sort. We watch over developing worlds, intervening only when necessary." Tom's mind raced. "Like now? When the Dominion invaded?" "We came as soon as we detected their presence in this system. Unfortunately, we were delayed." Something like regret crossed Alan's face. As they made their way out of the chamber, Tom saw the destruction the Guardian's arrival had caused. Not a single shot had been fired at the building itself, only precision strikes against Dominion defenses. They walked through corridors where Dominion technology had been disabled, but human structures remained intact. Outside, Tom led Alan toward the library where he hoped the others would be waiting. As they walked, he saw Guardian vessels hovering above the city, emitting beams of blue light that seemed to be neutralizing Dominion technology. "The Dominion said humans were weak," Tom said as they walked. "That's why they conquered us so easily." Alan gave him a strange look. "The Dominion did not conquer you because you were weak. They conquered you because they feared what you might become." "What do you mean?" "The Dominion builds its empire by conquering worlds with resources or strategic positions. But Earth was different. They came here because their long-range scanners detected energy signatures from our artifacts. When they arrived, they discovered something that frightened them even more. What? Your potential. Human adaptability is unique among the thousands of species we have encountered. Your ability to learn, to change, to overcome obstacles, it is remarkable. The Dominion feared what humans might become if they discovered the tools we left for you. Tom stopped walking, struggling to process this information. You're saying they attacked us not because we were weak, but because they were afraid of us. Precisely. The artifacts were accelerating your development. The Dominion's attack was not just conquest, it was preventative. As they approached the library, Tom saw Lisa and Jack watching from a window. Their eyes widened at the sight of Tom walking alongside a guardian. My friends are inside, Tom said. They'll have questions. As do I, Alan replied. Together, perhaps we can find answers. Tom nodded, a strange mix of hope and apprehension filling him. Whatever happened next would change humanity's understanding of its place in the universe forever. The truth, it seemed, was more complex than anyone had imagined. The old library basement had never been so crowded. Tom sat at a table with Alan and 3 other guardians, while Lisa, Jack, and the rest of the Whisper Network gathered around them. The air was thick with tension and hope. Let me understand this correctly, Jack said, leaning forward. These artifacts were left by your people thousands of years ago to help humanity develop? Alan nodded. His glowing skin cast soft light across the room. We seed promising worlds with tools and knowledge hidden until the civilization reaches a certain development stage. Earth was one such world. But we never found them, Lisa pointed out. You were close, Alan replied. Very close. The artifacts were beginning to react to human proximity. That's what alerted the Dominion to their presence. They arrived, found the artifacts, and realized what they were. Tom ran his hand through his hair, still processing everything he had learned. And they attacked us not because we were easy targets, but because they were afraid of what we might become if we found these tools. Correct. The Dominion builds its empire through conquest, but they especially target worlds where they detect our artifacts. They have been trying to unlock their secrets for centuries. As they spoke, reports came in from other resistance cells across the city. The Dominion forces were in full retreat, rushing to their ships as Guardian vessels secured the planet. But one massive Dominion command ship remained in orbit, refusing to flee. Their supreme commander is on that vessel, Alan explained, pointing to an image one of his fellow Guardians projected onto the wall. They will not leave without attempting to take some of the artifacts. Mike, who had been quiet until now, asked the question on everyone's mind. What happens now? To Earth? To humans? Alan exchanged glances with the other Guardians before answering. That depends partly on you. The damage done by the Dominion can be repaired. We can help restore your world, but its future must be determined by humanity. Sudden alarm sounded from a device on Alan's wrist. The Dominion command ship is moving. They're positioning weapons. On the projected image, they watched as the massive Dominion vessel turned toward Earth. Even from orbit, its weapons could devastate entire cities. They would destroy what they cannot have, one of the other Guardians said grimly. Can your ship stop them? Tom asked. Yes, but not instantly, Alan replied. They could fire at least once before we neutralize them. Jack jumped to his feet. We need to warn everyone to take shelter. There isn't time, Alan said, but there might be another way. He turned to Tom. You understand their systems better than most humans. You've worked in their control center for months. Tom nodded slowly, beginning to see where this was going. The regional hub is connected to their command ship. There's a communication array on the roof. If we could access it, we might be able to disrupt their targeting systems, Alan explained. Not permanently, but long enough for our vessels to move into position. I can get us there, Tom said without hesitation. Through the maintenance passages. Lisa grabbed his arm. It's too dangerous. The Dominion will have soldiers guarding it. Some, yes, Alan agreed. But most have retreated to their ships, and we will not be defenseless. He touched a device on his belt, and a soft blue glow surrounded him briefly. Tom stood up. We need to move fast. Minutes later, Tom led a small team through the city streets. With him were Alan, 2 other Guardians, and Jack, who insisted on coming due to his knowledge of communication systems. Above them, Guardian vessels engaged the remaining Dominion ships in orbit, flashes of light illuminating the night sky. Using the back routes he had memorized during months of careful observation, Tom guided them to the regional hub. As expected, a small group of Dominion soldiers guarded the entrance. They looked desperate, Jack whispered as they observed from cover. Cornered animals are dangerous. Alan made a subtle gesture, and one of the other Guardians moved forward. Before Tom could stop him, the Guardian stepped into the open. The Dominion soldiers fired immediately, energy weapons blazing, but the beams passed through the Guardian harmlessly. It was a hologram. As the soldiers focused on the decoy, Alan touched Tom's shoulder. Now, around the side entrance. They rushed across the open space to a service door Tom had used many times. Inside, the corridors were eerily empty. Most systems were still functioning, running on automatic protocols. This way, Tom said, leading them toward the central lift. The communication array is on the roof. They encountered resistance on the 3rd floor. 4 Dominion soldiers who opened fire as soon as they saw the intruders. Alan raised his hand, and a shield of blue energy absorbed the blasts. The other Guardian responded with a weapon that emitted pulses of light, disabling the soldiers instantly. Non-lethal, Alan explained, seeing Tom's expression. Unlike the Dominion, we prefer not to kill unless absolutely necessary. They continued upward. When they finally reached the roof access, Tom punched in the maintenance code he had memorized months ago. The door slid open. The roof was dominated by a massive dish-shaped array pointing skyward. 2 Dominion technicians worked frantically at a control station. This time there was no chance for subtlety. The technicians saw them immediately and reached for weapons. The Guardian's light weapon flashed twice, and the technicians collapsed. Jack rushed to the control panel. I can work with this, he said, studying the alien technology. It's similar to systems I've cleaned, but I'll need help understanding some of these components. Alan joined him. I can guide you. Tom and the other Guardian kept watch as Jack and Alan worked. Above them, the battle in orbit intensified. The massive Dominion command ship was moving into firing position. They're almost ready to fire, Tom warned, watching the ship's position change on a monitor. Almost there, Jack muttered, his fingers flying over the alien controls. Alan, what does this symbol mean? Power routing. Redirect it to the secondary node. Jack did as instructed. The entire array hummed, then shifted position slightly. Got it, Jack exclaimed. Sending the disruption signal now. The array emitted a pulse of energy that was invisible to the naked eye, but registered on the monitors as a wave spreading upward. It struck the Dominion command ship just as its main weapon was powering up. On the monitor, they watched as the Dominion ship's lights flickered. Its weapon ports closed suddenly, then opened again, but it was too late. 3 Guardian vessels had moved into position surrounding it with a web of blue energy. They're trapped, Alan said. Their weapons are neutralized. A cheer went up from Tom and Jack. The immediate danger was over. As they made their way back, down from the roof, Tom asked the question that had been bothering him. You said the Dominion feared human potential, but we were defeated so easily. What potential could they possibly fear? Alan stopped walking and turned to face him. Look at what you did, Tom. In just 6 months of occupation, you learned their systems, mapped their facility, formed a resistance network, and just now, you helped disable their command ship. A smile crossed his face, the most human expression Tom had seen from him. The Dominion feared your adaptability, your creativity, your determination. They feared that given time and the right tools, humans would surpass them. Is that true? Tom asked. Would we? It is already happening, Alan replied. The artifacts we left were meant to guide you, but even without them, humanity was finding its own path. Your civilization is young, but your potential is remarkable. They emerged from the building to find the sky changing. The Dominion ships were vanishing one by one, jumping away to whatever distant part of the galaxy they called home. Only, Guardian vessels remained glowing softly against the dawn sky. In the days that followed, the full truth emerged. The Guardians helped restore Earth's infrastructure and shared limited technology to help with rebuilding. They explained that they would not simply give humanity all their advanced technology, that would stunt Earth's natural development, but they would remain as allies and guides. The artifacts were returned to their original hiding places, to be discovered when humanity was truly ready for them. And perhaps most importantly, Earth was now known to other civilizations across the galaxy, not as an easy conquest, but as a protected world with untapped potential. Tom stood on the rooftop of his house one evening, watching the sun set just as he had on the day the Dominion arrived. But this time, the ships in the sky were Guardian vessels, preparing to leave now that their work was done. Lisa joined him, looking up at the stars that were beginning to appear. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked. "The Dominion?" Tom shook his head. "I don't think so, not just because of the Guardians, but because they now know the truth about us." "What truth?" "That our weakness was never really weakness," Tom said. "Our adaptability, our creativity, our determination to survive. These things the Dominion saw as primitive are actually our greatest strengths." As the Guardian vessels ascended, disappearing one by one into the darkening sky, Tom thought about the future. Earth would rebuild. Humanity would continue to develop, to learn, to grow. And someday, perhaps, they would join the Guardians among the stars. The war had proven humanity helpless, or so it seemed. But the arrival of the ship called Ready had revealed a deeper truth. In the vastness of the galaxy, there were many kinds of strength, and humanity's was just beginning to emerge. Tom smiled as the last Guardian ship vanished from view. The stars seemed brighter